This is Unlucky Hunters Matter, a hunting podcast about real hunts, real mistakes, and the lessons learned when things don't go as planned, because the woods don't owe you another chance. So what does that really mean? The woods don't owe you another chance. For Unlucky Hunters Matter, it means this. At some point, you're going to be given an opportunity, a moment, a situation where the decision you make will dictate almost the entire outcome of the hunt. That decision can reward you with a life of an animal, or it can leave you with nothing, sometimes for the rest of the hunt, the day, or even the entire season. You're not guaranteed another opportunity. You're not promised another chance. And this past season taught me that lesson the hard way. Most hunters expect another opportunity, and the woods don't work that way. Like I talked about in the last episode, there was an evening in Maine when I shot a doe in a wide open field. She ran a short distance and piled up right there in front of me. Moments later, another doe stepped out into the same field, calm, confused, completely unaware of what just had happened. I had the tag, I had the opportunity, and I didn't take it. That second doe would have been an easy deer. Instead, it turned out to be the last real chance I had to kill a deer in Maine for the entire season. Later on, I bumped a really nice buck. He came running through the timber, and I had a brief shot opportunity. I hesitated. I didn't like the angle, and I didn't want to risk it making a bad shot. So I let him go. That was the last I ever saw that buck. Not on camera, not on hoof for the rest of the season. Then there was another morning. I was sitting in what I knew was a great spot, an area where my buddy and I had both killed deer earlier in the season. I still had deer on camera there, including a really nice 8-point. I'd barely gotten settled at the base of a tree when my phone started blowing up. Work issues, messages piling in, problems that need attention right now. So I made a decision to get out of the woods and head back to the truck to take care of it. What I didn't know was that while I was dealing with work, that buck had come in, 20 to 30 yards from where I'd been sitting. When I stood up to leave, I caught a glimpse of him running through the woods. That was the last time I saw him all season. 3 different moments, 3 real opportunities, and every one of them slipped away. That's the reality of hunting, especially on public land. You don't get unlimited chances. You don't get do-overs. When the woods give you an opportunity, you either take it or live with the lesson and the what might have been. I think this is where a lot of us get it wrong. Most hunters don't realize they're expecting another opportunity because we don't say it out loud. We just assume it. We assume the deer will come back tomorrow. We assume we'll get another sit. We assume there will be another moment where things line up. But the woods don't work on assumptions. Pressure builds, deer adapt, and seasons move fast. And before you realize it, the opportunity you thought would always be there is gone. Looking back, none of those moments felt huge at the time. They felt small, easy to justify. And that's the dangerous part. Because the seasons don't usually end up with one big mistake. They end with small decisions we didn't think would matter. As hunters, we should all understand how pressure affects deer movement. The more pressure that's put on deer, the more the daily patterns change, how they move from bedding to food and water, and when they choose to move. The more times you hunt in an area without capitalizing on opportunities, the more you risk educating deer. Eventually, they stop using that area during legal shooting light, or they abandon it altogether. If pressure is already high, and you're like me and still screw up opportunities from time to time, you run the risk of never seeing a deer in that area again, no matter how many times you go back hoping something will change. In my experience, deer don't change their patterns until they know the pressure is off. One thing that I've really started thinking about is the cost of one more sit. One more hunt in the same spot. One more time pushing conditions that aren't quite right. One more time hoping pressure won't matter this time. Every sit costs something. It might cost movement. It might cost daylight activity. Or it might cost the deer abandoning that area altogether. And a lot of the time, we don't realize what it costs us until weeks later, when we're wondering why nothing is moving anymore. Just because a spot used to be good doesn't mean it still is. Pressure changes everything. Timing plays into this too, and it's one of the hardest things to figure out. I've gone into tree stands well before daylight with a flashlight and not seen a single deer all morning. I've gone in right around sunrise and had deer come through minutes after getting settled. And I've gone in after sunrise and seen absolutely nothing. What I've learned is this: deer pattern us just as much as we try to pattern them. This past season, I paid closer attention than ever. When I entered the woods about half hour before legal light, I'd often spook deer coming off of private land and heading toward bedding on public land. After a few times of that happening, the deer adjusted. They started moving later in the morning or staying under the cover of darkness altogether. And once they spooked, the morning hunt was usually over. There's a fine line between confidence and complacency. Confidence comes from preparation. Complacency comes from expectation. And I crossed that line more than once this season. I went to hunts thinking, this should be easy. Thinking, I've got deer on camera. Thinking, if not today, then tomorrow. And every time I did that, the woods reminded me who was really in control. The moment you stop respecting the opportunity is usually the moment it disappears. I also believe an entitlement mindset ruins hunts. The mindset where you think it's going to be a slam dunk day, where you expect deer to just be standing in a field waiting for you. That mindset has burned me more times than I can count, especially early in the season. Early season is when entitlement shows up the strongest. We've watched deer all summer. We've built expectations. We think opening weeks are automatic. But deer don't know it's opening season. They don't care how much prep we did. They react to pressure, mistakes, and movement, not our confidence. Just because you had deer on camera all summer doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Most of the time, it's not. This is exactly why I wanted to start this podcast. Because these aren't rare experiences, they're normal. Most of the time, we only hear about success. We don't hear about the hunts that quietly ended seasons. And when we don't talk about those hunts, we miss the lessons that actually make us better. If this episode sounds familiar, if you lived these moments, I want to hear from you. Unlucky Hunters Matter is always looking to sit down with other hunters, fishers, podcasters, and creators who value honest conversations and real experiences in the outdoors. If you're willing to talk about the hunts that didn't go as planned, the mistakes that taught you the most, and the lessons you've carried forward, this show is for you. This isn't about highlight reels or ego. It's about real stories, real reflection, and conversations hunters can actually relate to. If that sounds like your lane, I'd love to have you on. When I look back on this season, none of these moments were huge mistakes. They were small decisions, reasonable decisions. Decisions I could justify in the moment. But every one of them led to the same result. No second chances. That's what this season taught me. Not every opportunity comes back around. Not every tag gets another moment. And the woods don't care how prepared you are, how hard you've worked, or how much you want it. When the woods give you an opportunity, You don't assume there will be another one, because they don't owe you that. That's what I'm carrying into the next season. Fewer assumptions, more urgency, and a deeper respect for every chance I'm given. This is Unlucky Hunters Matter. Real hunts, real mistakes, real lessons. Because not all hunts go as planned.